All right, tonight's lesson is lesson 3 in wisdom and wealth. And it could be titled The Simple Life, or it could be titled What's Behind Me, Live Simply. And our verse for tonight's lesson, we have the translation for the message here at the top of your worksheet. And it just really brings it out a little better than some other translations. It says a pretentious, showy life is an empty life. A plain and simple life is a full life. What do you think about that?
I agree.
You agree, okay?
Yeah, my life, I don't think it's pretentious or showy at all. But I definitely have a lot of the stuff that matters,
Mhm.
So I have my family, I've got my kids. I'm relatively healthy when my back isn't killing me. So, nothing really. I mean, there are trials and stuff like that, but it's not showy. I definitely don't live outside of my means. But it's very full and it's very rewarding. And so I would say for me, that's true.
Okay. All right. Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree. I'm not pointing fingers. It just reminds me of long time ago, I lived in a new neighborhood where everyone was, building a house, and it was a big deal for us. And, and you move in and you meet people, and some people had to have the perfect lawn, and then the ATVs and the snowmobiles and the boats and the this and the that. And it just went on and on and on. And I'm like, can't you just be happy because you have a house? and there was so many of those people. I'm not saying everybody, I mean, it's very individual, but so many of the people, I just felt like the more stuff they had, the more they wanted, and they just didn't seem that happy, just what it just reminds me of.
I agree. And you don't want too big a yard either, because that takes a lot of doing. And the bigger the house, the more cleaning there is. Yeah, simple life. So a little story from one of the books. Mike and Jan live in a southwestern metropolitan city. Mike's an electrician's apprentice, and Jan is a stay-at-home mom who homeschools her children, age 6 and 8. Mike earns $36,000 a year and has benefits through his employer. They can live comfortably on Mike's salary and put a little money in a savings account and the children's college accounts. Their only debt is the 15-year mortgage on their 2-bedroom home, and they are paying extra on it to pay it off in 10 years, which will save them $9,000 in interest. The writer asked Mike how they survive, and he says, well, we don't wear the latest fashions or drive new cars. Occasionally, we would like to have newer things or eat out more, but our used stuff works well, and we're healthier because we eat at home. It's a challenge to be content in a consumer-driven world. We have to block out the propaganda from advertisements. It's tempting to give in, but if we did, we would be charging stuff on credit cards. That would cost us more, and eventually the stuff would just get old and wear out. That's why we buy used stuff. It's much cheaper. Besides, the sacrifices we're making are worth it. Jan can stay at home and have quality time with the kids. I'll be up for a promotion and salary raise next year. And we plan on saving some of this money for a bigger house in a couple years, but we'll keep this house to rent. The raise will also let me contribute to my company's 401k. We're happy. I sleep sound at night knowing I have a plan and that God is helping us with our finances. That is not the normal case in the United States.
No.
Welcome, Amanda. We have started already, but barely started. We're already started, Amanda. So
Thank you.
jump in with us. Most people, as is on your worksheet, says most people struggle to make ends meet, burdened with high consumer debt, just one paycheck from having a car or house repossessed. That's what we're talking about, living simply versus living showy. Now, something that you might not be aware of, though, is that there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. And it has some surprising secrets about America's wealthy. Wealthy in a different sense, of course. It says that most people don't become millionaires until they're at least 50 years old. And most do not earn high annual incomes, but are frugal. And few could have supported a high consumption lifestyle and become millionaires. So there's a lot of millionaires out there. We talked about that, I think, last week or the week before. But what do these millionaires do that we should know? And that's on your worksheet too. There's 8 items. First one, they live below their means and don't earn high annual incomes. So you don't have to earn a lot. You just have to live below your means so you can save. They spend their time, energy, and money efficiently. They place financial independence above social status. So it's not about how you look or where you live or what you drive, that type of thing. Their parents didn't leave them large inheritances, so that they didn't come into it because of inheritance. Their adult children are economically self-sufficient because they passed on to them how to live frugally and simply. They understand economic opportunities, so they've taken the time to educate themselves in financial things. They choose occupations with high demand. Occupations with high demand means usually job security and a little higher pay. And 8, they have a plan. That's one thing that a lot of people don't have. They have no budget, they have no plan. So the cornerstone for building wealth is being frugal. Does everybody understand the word frugal?
Spending your money wisely.
Okay, is it just spending it wisely?
No, saving it too. You gotta look for deals. If I can get something, like they said, like they were talking about new versus used,
Mhm.
I needed some
Wise.
clothes today. So I Walmart not that Walmart's that expensive, but I didn't go there. I went to Goodwill first to see what I could get.
Mhm.
I would rather spend my money that way.
You
Versus
get better things there sometimes.
sometimes I got a cute dress today. I gotta say, I got a cute dress.
There you go.
And a shirt. So
I'm gonna tell you, when my kids were little, there was a great secondhand store in Massachusetts, and twice a year they would have bag sales where you go with your own bag and you stuff it with whatever you want, $5 a bag. Can I tell you how much awesome stuff you can stuff in a bag for $5? It was great. And I would tell my mom and she was horrified,
Yeah.
and, oh, are things so bad that you have to buy things like that? I'm like, no, Mom, you don't understand. Look at what I got, But I don't know. I think frugal is like Lisa was saying, it's a form of being wise, not impulsive.
Mhm.
yeah.
So are you living like this type of millionaire? These 8 things that we talked about, are they things that you'd say that's how I'm living?
Mostly.
Mostly.
I hope.
Okay. One thing that some people think is a good way to get rich is to play the lottery or gamble. Do you have any idea how much people spend on that type of stuff?
I don't know, but my sister's boyfriend, she never got married to him. She's been with him forever. He won the lottery and he blew it on a condo down in West Palm Beach. A hurricane took it out, so he had no more money. Didn't buy hurricane insurance. He didn't get hurricane insurance. Sorry, this is a
that's
really
all right.
sad story. I shouldn't be laughing, but
Here's an example. If you spent $40 every paycheck
oh,
on either the lottery or
no
gambling,
way.
how much do you think you would be spending a year?
Oh, what is your pay bi-weekly or is it?
Good question.
Well, I don't know for this example, but I'll tell you what the calculation was, $1,040. So we could probably
Bi-weekly.
calculate back.
Yeah.
Yeah, most people's is biweekly or monthly. So $1,040, just spending $40 a paycheck in a year on a game where you have a 1 in a 1 million chance of winning.
Mhm.
If they had,
Hey,
if they had put that money over a 10-year period, they would have accumulated $12,000.
Ugh.
Just $40 every other week, you get $12,000 in 10 years.
Hmm.
And if you were earning 5% interest, if you could ever find that right now, that would also build. Or if you were putting it in a 401k and getting a higher interest rate, you could have several thousand beyond that possibly. To get control of your money and be fulfilled, you need to have a major mind shift in the way you look at money and the way what habits you have as you go about spending money. You have to have a mind shift. And Solomon said this in Proverbs 21:5. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. And that's a newer version of the Bible. It's sort of a New English version kind of thing. Good planning, hard work lead to prosperity. Hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. How about Benjamin Franklin? What do you think he'd have to say about this? He had a lot of his own proverbs, didn't he?
yeah, he was a very smart man.
So Benjamin Franklin said, your net worth to the world is usually determined by what remains after your bad habits are subtracted from your good ones.
That's crazy.
So
Well,
if your bad habits cost you more than the good habits keep money in your pocket, then you're not going to be worth very much. All right. Let's see, did I give you Ben? No, I didn't give you Ben Franklin's quote on your worksheet. It's not on there. If you want it, I can tell it to you again.
I wrote it down.
Our lives are made up of habits, good and bad. Little things that we do over and over again can either lead us down a path of failure and disappointment, or it can lead us down the path of success and accomplishment. They say if you do something every day for 2 weeks, it's a habit. But it takes longer than 2 weeks to get rid of one. So if you want to get rid of a habit, you have to not do something for more than 2 weeks. It's more like a month or so. So what are some bad habits financially?
Starbucks
Uh,
coffee.
Shopping around.
What
Not
was that?
shopping around, okay.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard
Buy-
Starbucks. Yep, that's definitely one.
Being in a rush instead of taking 10 more minutes to plan things costs a lot of money.
Mhm. Buying on a whim. Yep. Yep. So the number one bad habit is overspending your income level, spending more than you make. In other words, a negative cash flow. How do we stop negative cash flow?
rid of all the fun stuff.
Not necessarily.
I'm just teasing.
What
Like
we
it,
already
though.
talked about, we have to control the desire to spend.
Mhm.
So we have to not just spend without a plan. We have to have a plan for our spending. We need to have a net cash flow that's not negative. So we have to look at reducing debt, building savings, investments and things like that. What do you do with what's left at the end of the month? If you're frugal with your spending, you have money left in your account after bills are paid at the end of the month. What do you do with that money that's left?
Should try to save it in some way, I would think.
Right. Most people will say, okay, this is found money and I'm going to spend it on my wants. And it's gone. But yeah, if you change your mindset that it is found money, but it needs to go to debt reduction or savings, then you're in a much better situation.
But with that mindset, right? How do
Mhm.
you end up getting money for the things that you do want?
That's where you work a plan.
Okay.
Okay. So say you wanted a vacation. You have your budget and you stay with your budget, and part of your savings then would go into a pot of money towards a vacation. But you can't have a lot of debt to be able to have savings. That's the kicker. Too much consumer debt beyond like a mortgage or car payment, and you're not going to be able to have money to save for things like vacations and things like that. So your first step in stopping your overspending is probably to evaluate where you're at with your spending. In other words, what we're going to do at some point, meeting together where everybody has their information, and we can look at, what is your spending? Are you negative cash flow, positive cash flow? Where are some places that you can make some changes and that type of thing? So your worksheet on page 2 has some simple guidelines for a budget. This is for a family of 4 with a take-home pay of $60,000. 27% of that income for housing, 15% for transportation, although that probably might be a little low right now with gas prices. 12% for food, again, that might be a little low. Tithing 10%, savings 10%, but you can't save as well if you have too much debt. You have to do debt reduction first. Medical expenses 6%, clothing 5%, personal insurance 5%, and miscellaneous 10%. But you first have to see where you're at. That's your first step. These are the goals, percentage goals. But like I said, you can't do the savings one if you have too much debt, because you have to put more towards debt reduction. And you can't do a budget if you don't get everybody on board. So it's not a budget that one parent can do. Well, the other parent's not involved and the kids aren't involved. Everybody has to be involved, and everybody should know what's going on. You should talk about it with your kids, about the value of money, bad effects of consumer debt, the whole works. Set some goals and have the family participate in those goals. So everybody gets rewarded when everybody participates. So suppose paying down debt on some credit card means that your whole family can't go out to eat for 5 months. And all that money that would have been for out to eat goes into paying the debt. When the debt is paid for that card, then the family goes out to eat as a reward. That's just kind of an example. All right. So more guidelines for budgeting. There are 6 of these. What do you think is the first one, if you're not looking at your sheet? You're muted, Lisa.
Are we talking about for budgeting, what our first step is?
What's our first guideline on our budgeting?
Probably figuring out how much you have and how much you spend.
Well, we already said that. But
No.
when you're preparing a budget, what's the first thing you should think about?
How much you spend?
Being frugal.
No? What did we talk about last week?
Tithing.
Yeah. God comes first. That's what we
Oh.
talked about last week. God
Well,
comes first. That's okay. That's okay. All good thoughts, though. God comes first. When you get your check, allocate your tithe and pay it off the top, because if you don't and you wait, something else is going to want to take that money. Very, very easy for something else to raise its head and say, hey, I need attention. All right. Second thing to think about, like I said, you might not be able to do it right away, but savings. Pay yourself second. You need to have an emergency fund that is at least 2 weeks of pay. Better if it's 2 months of pay, but at least 2 weeks of pay, your emergency fund. So some kind of savings plan. Third item is debt. You gotta lighten your load. Recommendation, no more than one active credit card, because it's too tempting to build balances on more. And if you're going to use a credit card, you've got to be able to pay it off at the end of the month. Otherwise, you shouldn't be using it, because that means that you're spending more than your income. You're living beyond your means if you're having to use a credit card and you can't pay it off in the month that you use it. And we'll talk more about debt, but Proverbs 22:7. Somebody want to read that? Anybody have it?
the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is a slave to the lender.
Okay, that's why we don't want to be in debt, because whoever we're in debt to, we are slaves to. So that's Proverbs 22:7. That's not on your sheet, but verse well worth writing down. So how much do you think you should save when the debt is reduced? What should be the percentage of savings? Any ideas?
Well, we give God 10%, so maybe 10%.
At a minimum. Yep. Once your debts are reduced, though, go for 15 or 20. Because part of your savings is for retirement. And that is the fourth item that you need to be aware of when you're doing a budget. You need to be contributing to a retirement plan of some kind. If your company provides a 401k and they do matching, that's free money for retirement. So you want to at least do the percentage that they'll match. Number 5, taxes. Should we pay them?
Begrudgingly, yes.
Do we
Why?
have to?
Why? Why do we pay taxes?
Give to Caesar what is Caesar's and give to God what is God's.
Exactly. That's Matthew 22:21, and that's on your sheet.
Caesar wants too much.
Caesar wants too much. Yes.
Yeah.
I do try to find ways to reduce how much Caesar gets. For example, my workplace, which is a federal job, we're allowed to have our cost of our medical and our thrift savings plan and a few things come off before tax count starts counting. So my insurance for medical is taken out before they calculate the tax on my income. I have a medical savings plan that comes out before taxes come out. And so when I have a bill, my savings plan pays me and then I pay the bill. But it's coming out pre-tax. I also do what is suggested here. That is, if you're receiving more than $500 in refund from taxes, then you need to change your exemptions because you're giving Caesar money that you could be putting to use throughout the year instead of going into debt. Don't see Caesar as a forced savings plan. Because basically you're giving the government money that they can put to use or gain interest on or that kind of thing when it should be in your hands and part of your budget. So recommend not getting more than $500 back in refunds. Of course, if you've got child credits and things like that, there's not much you can do about that amount that's coming back, but the base amount, don't overpay your taxes. And 6 is one Lisa likes to talk about, insurance.
Yeah.
She knows a lot about insurance because she worked for an insurance company.
Yeah.
So some ways to save on insurance is not have too low a deductible.
That's true.
If you have a used car, raise the deductible because you're not going to get too much out of the car anyway. And so having a different deductible helps. You don't pay as much for the insurance.
Also, you can watch your liability limit. Your liability limits increase the premiums.
Mhm.
So if you have a lot of assets that they can attach, you can lower your liability amounts because they can't really do much to you.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
it all depends on your income and what you own and all that.
Right.
You just said that I should
You-
raise my
Deductible. You can save
deductible.
money by raising your deductible unless you think that you're at too high a risk of having accidents or something like that. And you can't afford the deductible. You've got to weigh the two sides of it.
Yeah.
But you can definitely save on insurance by not having too low a deductible.
Yep.
All right. If you're going to overspend in any area, what area do you think would be the place to overspend?
Vacations.
No, sorry, not that one.
Spa days.
No, not that one either. You want to over.
Savings,
What was that?
savings.
Tithing?
Tithing or savings, I guess, yeah.
Tithing or savings, okay, but there is one area. If you're going to overspend within your budget, but you don't want to live extravagantly, but if you're going to extend in your budget, it would be things that appreciate in value, not decline in value. So things like your house. Now, cars don't
Oh.
fall into that because they decline in value. So if you're in an apartment, buying a house might be something that you might want to stretch your budget to do because it's something that's going to increase in value. That's an example.
After 6 years of paying someone else's mortgage, being in a rental property and adding it all up, I was horrified. Like,
Yes.
oh gosh, I can't believe I spent that much money to put towards somebody else's mortgage.
Right. All right. So how do you find some extra funds? And I've given you, I think, 14 items, finding extra funds. Where do you go through what you've got going on and find extra funds? Well, the first thing is you transfer high interest stuff to low interest stuff. So if you've got a high interest card and you've got a lower interest card, you get everything on the lower interest card. You don't want to be paying interest if you can help it. I have a credit card that I use for a lot of things, but it does two things. Oh, we must have lost Amanda or going to lose her.
Yes, my phone is dying, so
All
I
right,
wanna go.
you're ready then.
I'm
Okay,
home. So
so I have a credit card and what I do with that credit card is I pay it off weekly. So I might use it for like groceries and paying doggy insurance and whatever, but I pay it off every week. One, it has a low interest rate, but they never get any of it from me. They never get any interest from me because it's paid off weekly. And I get money back from the bank because I get 3% back on whatever category I choose. So they get no interest from me, but they give me 3% back. So it's a good deal.
Mhm.
So be careful with credit cards and work them the right way. So beware of high interest versus low interest. Those are important. We'll talk a lot more about that when we talk about drowning in debt. Second one, take your lunch to work and eat out less. Eating out costs a lot.
Mhm.
And it's costing even more than it used to. Third one, eat at home before going to entertainment or the grocery store. Two biggest places that you get yourself in trouble is if you're going like to a movie or something and you buy food there. It's going to cost a whole lot more than even at the grocery store. It's going to be crazy costs. And if you go to the grocery store hungry, what happens?
Oh, you
Buy
buy
it.
a lot more.
You buy everything and probably
Like, you
stuff
know,
you shouldn't
thirsty.
buy.
I
All right.
went thirsty to a store one day, and then I looked at my card, and it was all just drinks.
There you
I
go.
said I need to leave this, and I don't want this.
Mhm.
That's funny.
All right, fourth one might hurt for people that like TV, but cancel cable TV or premium channels. Cut back on entertainment stuff.
I did that a long time ago.
Fifth one, review your auto and home insurance. We talked about this already. Consider raising deductibles, looking at the insurance.
You know-
Number 6.
Can I interject for a second?
Sure.
Another tip that a lot of people don't know about their auto insurance is that if you can, like if you're on an annual plan, call every year when your policy renews. They probably have a new and better plan that'll save you money monthly. So I
Mhm.
call once a year to reduce my payments, and I usually get them reduced by like 10, 15 bucks, sometimes 20 a year. Just by,
Yeah.
it's a lot of times of increasing coverage and costing me less.
You can do that with a lot of other places too. Cable, internet, TV, all of those. If you call and you say, I need to save money, what can you do? A lot of them will give you promotional 1 year, 2 year
Yep.
special deals, and you can save a lot of money there.
Okay.
All right, number 6, use coupons. Now, that might be a little old fashioned, but you can save a lot of money if you can use coupons, but don't use them to buy things you don't need. Use them to buy things you do need.
Yeah.
That's where you can get in trouble there. Trade services with family or friends. You know, somebody that knows how to cut hair, do something for them in exchange for the haircut. You know, somebody that does yard work and maybe you're good at doing laundry. Maybe you'll do somebody's laundry for them to mow your lawn or whatever. But trade services. Refinancing your home mortgage to lower interest rates is another good thing to look at, especially interest rates are pretty low now. Although they're starting to go up. Number 9 might be a little less intuitive. Sell a car that you own, even one that you owe on, and buy a used one with better gas mileage. You can actually save yourself money in the long run. How about a garage sale? Your stuff that you're ready to get rid of is somebody else's treasure.
Amen.
That takes so much time.
Amen.
It's a great idea, but it takes so much time.
Get
It
rid of all.
does.
Hush.
Number 11, never pay retail, negotiate or wait for sales, buy used. Dogs, buying generic or off-brand items is another good one. And one that we heard earlier, no Starbucks. Expensive coffee
Only once in a while.
as a special treat.
That's right.
And buying previously owned items. We've talked about that several times. Another piece of getting hold of your budget has to do with looking at your time. It's just as important to look at how you manage your time as it is to look at how you manage your finances. Because your time feeds into your ability to work, feeds into your stress. And so stress can lead to medical bills, feeds into a lot of things. So have you ever stopped and recorded for a week or two how you spend your time?
Oh, boy.
Have you ever done it? Yep.
No.
Any idea how you spend your time?
That'd take too much time.
I spend too much time commuting. It's too depressing right now. I am, yeah.
Okay, well, it is a good idea to keep a journal, maybe not super precise, but keeping a journal of how you're spending your time. And start looking for ways to redeem the time that you're spending waiting. Waiting is a thing that gobbles a lot of time. We were talking about commuting. What are some things that you can redeem the time when you're waiting?
When I'm commuting,
Mhm. Commuting or waiting in lines at stores or wherever. How can you redeem that time?
Sometimes I put a book I want to read on Audible.
Mhm.
I can read half a book, and if I'm driving like 3 hours somewhere and 3 hours
Yep.
back or something.
Or have the Bible in audible version.
Yep.
Or listening to Christian music.
Sermons. I like throwing sermons on.
That's definitely all redeeming the time. What are some other things that you might be able to do to redeem time when you're waiting in other situations when you're not having to drive?
Multitask. So I get a lot of emails that come in and out, like even with the BJU stuff and texts and everything like that. So a lot of times when I'm waiting, I'll fire back responses if I can.
Okay. Good idea, because emails are a major time drag.
Why'd you giggle at my answer?
Oh, I'm laughing because I only put one shoe in the suitcase.
No, it's over there.
This one?
Yeah, right there.
All right, another good way of maximizing your time is plan the next day the night before. Planning the day lets your mind process the things that you're going to do. And sometimes you come up with better ways of doing things and answers to situations while you're sleeping, because your mind's still busy working. Scheduling times to return phone calls and emails. Rather than returning them all day long, schedule time maybe in the morning and in the evening to do those kind of things. Keeping office doors closed to reduce interruptions if you have that situation. Keeping your work area less cluttered saves you time. Having organizational meetings before you start a project. I find that particularly useful at work. I have a crew meeting once a month and everybody contributes to it, you know, where they're at on their projects. I talk about the next projects that are coming. They get to contribute to methods or ideas for the next projects. Family meetings can be good times to connect and to get everybody on board with stuff. What we talked about before, a life plan, planning things, you know, a few months to a year out and then several years in advance can also be important, not only for finances, but for your time. How about delegating? Can you get somebody else to do some of your work? Lisa says,
That's
"Uh-huh."
good. They're useful sometimes.
Okay. Scheduling personal and family time in advance. Make it an appointment, just like you make other appointments. Otherwise, if you're busy, it's not going to happen. And reducing time robbing activities. What are some time robbing activities?
Facebook.
Facebook. Mhm. Video games, web surfing, watching TV. Most dogs. Most Americans will watch 3 to 4 hours of TV a day.
Wow.
That's if you watch 4 hours of TV a day, that's 28 hours a week. Or 2 months out of your year. In a 75-year lifespan, the person will have watched 13 years of TV.
That's like a part-time.
That's crazy.
I can get a part-time. You get paid those 4 hours a day.
Mhm, mhm.
Just get rid of my children. No, I'm joking.
And then a couple other hints on keeping yourself less stressed and more capable of earning an income and dealing with things that are coming your way. Solomon in chapter 20 of Proverbs, verse 13. Do not love sleep or you will grow poor. Stay awake and you will have food to spare. Do you realize that if you got up an hour earlier each day, you could add 25 hours to your month, 300 hours to your year, and 3,000 years or 3,000 hours every 10 years. It's a lot you could do with that time. And if your time is
Too
worth
much
a lot,
sleep is, I don't know if too much sleep is a problem.
a lot of people, too little sleep's a problem. Yeah. How much
Yeah.
sleep do you think an adult should get?
I feel like I'm sleep deprived. Even if I happen to get 8 hours during the weekend, I still don't feel refreshed because I don't get that during the week. You know what I mean? Like, I think, isn't it accumulative?
It
I'm
is.
exhausted.
Sleep's important. Your adults should have 7 to 8 hours of sleep a night, and kids should have 10 hours.
Wow.
I
It
don't feel
affects-
refreshed in the morning unless I have at least 9 hours of sleep. I need at least 9 to wake up not feeling crazy.
That's the average. Some people need more.
I do need.
And sleep, too little sleep affects your attitude, your productivity, your performance, your health, all kinds of stuff. So if you're not able to sleep well at night and there's a medical reason for it, do something about it. It's important. Proverbs 6, 10 through 11. I don't think I have it written out, so somebody's going to have to look it up. Anybody have it?
Almost.
Proverbs 6, 10 through 11.
A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief.
Okay.
Oh, and scarcity like an armed man. I didn't finish that.
Okay.
Or I
So
didn't last night, ironically.
it is a juggling thing. Too much sleep is not good. Too little sleep's not good. You need to find that happy medium. I know when I don't get enough sleep that my focus is off. Everything is not quite the same for the day. So we will end the recording there.